Welcome to Wednesday's Revival, where we are reviving your creative spirits. Now today we're talking about color grading. I got a comment on this video on how I color graded it, so that's what we're gonna do. Now color grading is big in the sense of you can obviously turn a color back into its realistic state, which will make it look normal. That's how most vloggers do it. They usually don't color, they just have it in a Rec 709 format right out of the camera, so it looks normal. Or you can tell a mood, a story. You can do a lot with coloring. With films, different colors mean different things, and they progress the story. So you can give a cold tone. So when there's a bad guy that comes in the scene or something bad is about to happen, you have this cold, creepy tone. You can go to a warmer tone that makes everyone feel happy, so you know everyone's safe. The protagonist in the film is safe in this area. And then you can also have, I find it interesting, just go look up color meanings in film, and you can play around with that so much. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go into the colors. So here we go. Did I cover everything? So first what we're gonna, whoa, I think the chair's broken. So first what we're gonna do is we are going to open up a Premiere project. All right, so you're gonna do new project, title it whatever you want. Color grade vid, put it wherever you want it. Quick tip, if you're editing videos and you're editing through a hard drive, you might want to change that pretty quick because a hard drive is not meant to be worked on. It's meant to store a lot of footage or a lot of files, but it doesn't have the speed to be able to edit, to be able to run Premiere or anything on. So I went through a traumatizing experience of not knowing that. So if your computer's running slow, get an internal SSD or an external SSD and run all your projects through that before you store them. So I'm gonna put it on the SSD. I already made a spot. How I color, we're gonna put it in projects, select folder, okay. So once you get into your project, you're gonna drag your clip in. This is a ProRes raw clip, obviously. So what Premiere is gonna do is it's gonna automatically try to turn this into a Rec 709. It's gonna automatically correct it for you. So first what I'm gonna do, because this is a 60 frames clip, I know this is only about the coloring, but I'm gonna quickly show you how I get to that part. So we're gonna pick the frame that we want, like that one. Drag that in. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to Effect Controls, click over to the raw source settings, and we're gonna change this to a color format that you are comfortable color grading. So I've been using S-Log3 for a while. So I'm gonna flip over to S-Log3. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna export that. How we're going to export that so you don't compress it too much is we're gonna go to Export Media. Now we're gonna go find Apple ProRes. I already have a default save, so basically what I did is I made this ProRes 422 HQ and then render at maximum depth. I think that's all I did to that, and then use maximum render quality. I end up naming these a rough cut, because what I do is I actually edit and piece together the video, no titles, but all the audio and the piecing together, I go ahead and do that. So then it's my rough cut. So then from there, I can cue it into Media Encoder, and I can turn that rough cut into a Davinci Resolve timeline. And then from there, I can edit piece by piece. So now after we close this, we are going to open Davinci Resolve. And again, like I said, this is the free version. You don't have to buy anything. If you do want to buy it, it's 300 bucks, I think. But I'm using the free version. So we're gonna go to New Project, and I'm gonna create the new project, and we have, this is our media pool right here. So this is where all of our clips are gonna go. So you are going to go to where you saved that Premiere timeline. So I did it in projects, and it's gonna be the title.mxf. So you're gonna drag that into the media pool, change project frame rate, go ahead and click change. Now before you start, this is where some of y'all might be able to help me. I know that I have to go, before I do anything, I go up to File, Project Settings, and then I have to change the timeline resolution. I don't know if this is just changing the timeline, like the final export I know I can change. I don't know if I have to have this before I can export it, if it's gonna be like trying to upscale it whenever I do export it. I don't know, but this is what I do just to be safe. I put the timeline resolution to 4K and then click save. Now we're gonna go over to, we're already in cut. We're gonna drag that clip in. So this is what we see. So say you have multiple clips, you'll go into cut, as you can see, and you'll scroll on and you'll right click, or yeah, you'll right click and then you'll click split, and that's where you now have two different pieces. So when you go into color, you'll see you have two different clips up here. But we don't want to do that. We're gonna keep one clip for now. So we're gonna go over to color and let's get started. These are your nodes. The best way I can think of nodes is like in Premiere, adjustment layers. So a lot of people like to do one adjustment layer and edit a ton in that adjustment layer, which can save time, but also if you mess something up, that's a lot of undoing and a lot of repeating. So you'll end up having a bunch of these nodes, and each node will be its own edit. So then if you don't like something, you can just click on it and delete it. So if you had a bunch of them, say you can click on, you don't like what you did here, so you can click on it, delete it, and then you still have all the other edits. So what we're gonna do is on the first node, this is important, we're gonna go find color space transform in your effects library. And what that does is that's basically going to do what Premiere tried to do, which was take your log footage or your raw footage and bring it back to normal. So what we're gonna do is for input color space, since I chose S-Log, we're gonna go find the color space that we used, which was Sony S-Gamut 3. Click that. And then input gamut, that is the S-Log 3 that we chose. So it's bringing it back to normal. Now, a lot of people wonder, why do we want to do it this way? Why would you not just shoot it like that? And that's because when you shoot in log or raw, you're keeping all that dynamic range. If you shoot straight like this, you're not gonna have as much dynamic range. So the reason people do this is because they want to shoot and get the high dynamic range, but with these settings, it'll bring it back to those normal colors. So it's easier to color, but you still have captured the most, the highest amount of dynamic range that your camera can get. So after you bring that back to normal, you're gonna add a node. So you're gonna go to the second node and you're gonna go to your color wheels, not your log wheels. Those are different. I don't know why, but I know they're different. Now, when we get to our color wheels, we have lift, gamma, gain, offset. So the basic way I look at this is lift is the darker, gamma is midtone, gain is highlight, and then offset is everything. All right, so what we're gonna do is first, I like to adjust to get the exposure tuned in correctly. All right, so what I wanna do is I wanna bring their skin tone up a little bit. So I'm gonna bring, or the midtones, I'm gonna bring it up a little bit. And now the lift, I don't want to bring the darks or the blacks or the shadows, I don't wanna bring them all the way down to 0, because once you get to 0, you start to clip, all right? So if you look in the top right corner, you start to see it clipping, because that's when you're going past 0, and that's when you're losing a lot of details. So I like to go to like one of the, probably a nick or 2 up above 0. Same with the bottom, you're gonna find the top and you're gonna go down about 2 ticks. Right there, all right? And we got the exposure back to normal. You're gonna add another node, and this one we're gonna correct white balance. So I'm going to the bottom, the darks need to be in a line with each other. So you're gonna find a very dark spot on your scene, which is about right here. See how the reds are a little bit lower than the green and the blues? And if you're wondering on how to pull up where you can see that, you're gonna click the 3 dots over here and you're gonna check on display qualifier focus. If you don't have your scopes on, the way you can do it is I can click, I don't know if it's the same for y'all, but Control-Shift-W, and that will turn them on, real bright so you can see everything, or over in the corner and you can select which ones you want. So reds are a little bit lower, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna equal it out using the lift. All right, I want to equal the bottoms out to about there. Is that about right? That's closer. There we go. All right. You can go to the pure whites. So the dress is right here. Anything that's pure white in your shot, you want to go to and make sure those are all on the same line. So you can see the gain, the highlights are a little bit off. The red is not high enough. So we're going to bring the red up a tiny bit. That's close enough. There we go. We got that. All right. So now we have our scene correctly colored and exposed. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another one. And on this one, we're going to perfect the skin tones. So after you click on it, go to this little eyedropper right here, click on it. Now you can come up here and you can click on what skin tone you wanna work on. So obviously for this one, we have 3 different skin tones. So first we will click on this one. Now after you click, what we'll do is you can hit this little wand up here. When you click on it, it shows you what you have selected. So technically we might be able to get all of them in one. So you just want to adjust the hue, the saturation, and the luminance until you can get exactly what you're looking for. Is that pretty good? All right. So now, after you have the skin tones isolated, you're gonna click on the drop down and go to vector scope. This line right here is known as the blood line. So that is basically a human's blood color, AKA the hue or the hue your skin gives off. So we want all of this to be on this line, which it looks like we already are. If you don't see this blood line, what we're gonna do is you are gonna click on these 3, looks like little adjustment lines, and go down to show skin tone indicator. All right. Now, if you have a skin tone that is not working with you, you'll come over here and you'll again lift with the lift gamma gain. If you want to isolate it even more to see what, like if you have a lot of different lights shining onto your subject, you can go to just a low, mid, or high exposure. Or you can click all to see all of them. And we are pretty on the game. So if we go to low, looks like low is a little off. So we'll go to lift, and we'll want to put that on the line. Good. We'll go to mid, make sure we got mid, so that's gamma. Yep, gamma is on the line. And we'll check the highs, and we don't have anything on the highs. So from there we can click out. We just pop their skin out a little bit. Okay, now we're done correcting, so now we get to go into more of the fun part. We're gonna add 3 more. From here, you're gonna click on the first one. And now we're gonna go into the curves. So you're gonna click curves up here, make sure you have the first one selected, and these are your exposure curves. So your log curves, shadow, midtone. If you use Premiere, you probably use these. So you're gonna go back to either Parade or Waveform, whichever one you wanna work with. I like to work with Waveform. And you can play with it, play how you like it. Obviously make sure they don't clip, because then obviously it's Bobo. So I like to find, I mean this is all preference, so I'll bring it down a little bit to give enough shadow in the back. Bring your highlights, but they're not clipping, so we're mainly messing with the dresses, or the clothing, so give it a glow almost. Then I like to click one further to tune in on the contrast of the shadows. So I'll probably like keep that one there, and I'll bring this one up. Bring more contrast into the shadows. If I want to give it more of a fade, I'll draw this last one up a little bit, which I want to do. Here we go. Top one, I'll keep it right there. And then midtones. Where do we want to take the midtones? This is obviously going to give a lot of bright contrast. This is going to dull down, not necessarily haze it up, but the contrast will shrink a little bit in the midtones. So that's kind of where I want to go, because I don't like it super there. So this is what we did to that one. Looks good. Click on this next one, and now we are going to come down here and go over into hue versus hue. And again, this is where we're going to play around with our coloring. So you can, obviously, your red to green, or red to yellow right here, these are your skin tones. So if you want to mess around with these, again, you can perfect the skin tone a little bit more, but that's not as useful or not as impactful as the one, not as reliable as the one we did before. So I like to keep these skin tones. I like to find the skin tones. So I'll find the skin tone, bam. If you click on it with the qualifier, it'll automatically tell you the skin tone. And then I'll pull these two out a little bit. And then I don't want to mess with anything in these ranges, because that's gonna mess with my skin tones. So I can play all out here. And again, I really don't think, if you wanna give that teal and orange look, we can obviously bring these blues up to a teal. And the greens, I want to give them, I don't want to give them a yellow, I want to give them a harsher green look, the trees in the background. I like that look. All right, and then we'll go over, this is all saturation. So again, probably this line right here with halfway in between right there, and these are your skin tones. So I want to drag the orange down a little bit, because I don't want them to look orange. So we're gonna drag it down to about right there. I think that looks good. Now we can play some more with the trees. I'm okay with the trees being a little more colorful there, and the sky, I'll probably keep the sky and the blues down. Then we'll go to the luminance. This is basically gonna say how bright each color is. So again, you can find your skin tones. I'll bring them up a little bit because I want the subject to pop out. So we'll go up a little bit. For the trees, I'll bring them down. Give them contrast against the background, sky. Usually the luminance of the sky, I like to bring it down, because what happens is, if you have a shot of just the sky, you'll see when you bring down the luminance of blues, the clouds pop out, and I think that looks wild. So bringing down the blues looks cool, in my opinion. All right, and then we'll go over to luminance versus saturation. What I like to do is I like to bring the shadows up and the highlights down. This is messing with the saturation of your highlighted parts of the clip, and these are your shadow parts of the clip. All right, so I like to bring the shadow up and the highlight down. And then again, you can pull the middle and kind of adjust it, fine tune it. I'll bring it down a little bit. All right, these last two, I'm not 100% sure what they do. I'll look it up, or one of y'all can tell me in the comments what those do, but I'm gonna leave those alone. But if you look at what we did and you delete just this node, you can see how much coloring we did to that to give it that afternoon to like blue hour summer look. I love that. All right, and now we get into my favorite part, which is really giving your scene a color. All right, so you messed with the specific tones. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the log wheels, and we are going to directly color the shadows, midtones, and highlights. So if you go to the shadows, you see everything that's dark is going to turn the color of wherever my slider is going, all right? So what I like to do is I like to give a contrast. If I pull the shadows one way, I'm going to pull the midtones or the highlights the opposite direction. Now this is obviously very harsh right now. So I'm gonna pull the shadows actually closer to that bluish, because the shadows are gonna be affecting the trees in the background. And I want to give the background a colder feel. Now the midtones, I'm gonna pull back to that orangish yellow because I want to contrast the skin tones against that. And then highlights, again, we can play with the highlights. Mainly we'll be messing with the sky and the dresses or the clothing. So I'll bring those higher to a yellow, orangish yellow, to contrast them with the background. And as you can see, that's the look we gave. Now if we go into our full view, the grain is harsh on this because it's just the timeline, it's not exported yet. But if you bypass those grades, we went from this to that. And I think I like that. I like that a lot. And again, these can be played with. These, obviously they want to be determined by your shot, but if you wanted to make them warmer, give the background a warm look, give them a warm look, like that, and then the highlights can be a harsh, or not a harsh, but more of a blue. That would be your look there. So now what you do when you finish, if you have a timeline or whatever it is, I would go to deliver, all right? And then what you're gonna do, because technically I'm not done yet, you're gonna go to Premiere XML, browse, go back into your projects folder, organize it as much as possible to keep it easy. You're gonna go to that resolution, do 4K, add to render queue, it's brought over here, and then click render all. Your clips will render, all right, and then you'll save it, exit out. Now you're gonna go back into your Premiere project. So for this one, what I do is I will do a title and then final. So this is showing that this is my final export that I'm gonna do. Find that XML, which was saved and how I color right here. And then I'll do colored clips. So I know, I'll take my colored clips, slide them in there. All right, and then I can drag this in. And now we have the colored clip right here. And now what we're gonna do is we can do any adjustments we need, as in we can put text on there that we didn't want colored. We can do any fine tuning, like effects if we needed to cut a scene short or something, or you can go ahead and give it that cinematic look by adding an adjustment layer. Drag that over the top, crop in the effects, and then give some kind of crop if you want it. Maybe not so much. Play with this. Go ahead and render it. And then you would export that scene or that sequence. So for me, how I export is I like to do H.265. I again created a default H.265. And then I will name this the title of the video, how I color. So I know that's the final one. And where I want to save it is I want to go to my final product folder. I'll queue it up, take it into media encoder, all right, and then I will click play. It'll export, go ahead and save this. And now I have my scene. That's how I color. Again, that was dependent on, how I colored was dependent on that scene. So things change. If I needed a scene, like for this, like how I colored this sit down right here with the Sony, I still go into Davinci, but I don't do near as many grading. I focus on the corrections, so the color space transform, bringing the white balance back. Everything that we did at the beginning is heavy what I do on these like sit down style videos. But the only time I really get into the color grading part of it, the fun part, is whenever whenever we're producing a film or we're doing a project for someone and it needs to relay some kind of feeling. Go look up the meanings of colors in film, because you'll have tons of fun being able to try your own things. Not what everyone's telling you to do, not the colors everyone's telling you to use, but you can try your own thing. If you want someone to feel something, you play around with that color. So it only takes one to go look up what the meaning of colors in film is. It only takes one to put in the comments what editing software you're using. Premiere, Final Cut, Davinci, iMovie, Windows Video Maker. It only takes one to make a change. It only takes one to change the world, and that could be you. See you next time.